All right. Running a little bit late tonight because daughter did not want to go down to sleep tonight. So I'm trying to run around, get everything hooked up real quick here. All right. Hey there. Good to see you on. So my apologies. I was going to get on like 10 minutes early, and then Sophia did not want to go to sleep. Did not want to go to bed. So she was all about mom putting her down tonight, and mom was trying to get her hair done. Anyways, I am up and rolling. Thank you guys for being here. Right. All right. If you're watching me on any other platform besides TikTok, TikTok is normally the one that I'm on the most. So if you have any questions and things like that, TikTok's going to be the place to drop them in. I'll try to answer any questions if I see them pop up anywhere else, but just letting you guys know. So, but anyways, thank you guys for following me. Thank you for trying to keep up with everything that I've been posting. I dropped a bunch of videos before this just because I had too many in my drafts and I was trying to get rid of some. Most of the time, if you contact me on TikTok, I'll normally respond on there better than I do on YouTube. I'm getting better about comments, and Instagram I am getting pretty decent about going through. But yeah, but I've been trying to grow both platforms. So some people follow me on YouTube or on Instagram, also on TikTok as well. So that's where I am most of the time is TikTok. That's where I kind of got started on here. Sorry guys, we're trying to catch up really quick. So, but anyways, thank you guys for being here. So a lot of stuff has been going on over the past couple of weeks. So just got back home the other day from Thanksgiving. So we went down to South Carolina to be able to see Kayla's family, my family, and had a good trip. Was able to come back, and then had kind of like a packed week last week with Thanksgiving, and then also the weekend right before had a bunch of one-on-ones and people that wanted to talk like right before the holidays, just with different things going on. One of the things I wanted to talk about was just like cycles. As a lot of times with narcissists, there are cycles, and there's cycles that happen very consistently. Someone that I was able to talk to just last week, right before Thanksgiving, someone I talked to talked about their narcissist and talked about how they had like consistent cycles. It was actually like creepy, like how consistent their cycle was. So for them, their cycle happened. They were with a person for 8 years, and their cycle, good to see you. So their cycle was 5 months. So like every 5 months, something would happen that would trigger the narcissist to leave, and so they would walk out of their lives. They'd catch a flight home, and they would be gone. But 5 months, and they were gone for typically about a month. And in this case, the narcissist was very enabled by the family members, very enabled with their the mom and dad would literally just like pay for a ticket, drop it, and like fly him right out, and would fly him to wherever they were. And yeah, so they'd be there for like a month and then end up coovering, coming back. So yeah, narcissists they have cycles, and it's pretty crazy. Like how they are. Some of them can be very predictable. Some of them are consistent as far as like being short. Some are consistent being long. It really just depends. Now, once again, if you guys are tuning in, I'm mainly on here on TikTok. I'll try to respond. I've got a couple other people tuning in with some YouTube and with some Instagram. So if you're on there and I'm not answering your questions, it's not no offense to you, but just have most of the people that are on TikTok. And so I normally respond to those questions. Um, but yeah. Let's see. All right. Anyways, so let's go ahead and jump in here. Got a couple things. Give me 1 second. One of my things is giving me a issue. Sorry, guys. All right. There we go. All right. Let me catch up real quick here. I know a couple of you guys already put some comments and some questions in here. All right. So if I've missed your question, I'm sorry. We'll have some moderators on here a little bit as they jump on. That'll help try to answer some of these questions too. But I will try to answer as best I can, and we'll jump right in. They say narcissistic people will never question their narc. So how did you know you're one? So for me, I always knew that something was off. Like something was off like my entire life. Something was off in how I connected with people. Something was off in how I interacted, how I emoted, how I had emotions, how I had feelings and things like that. And so for me, I got to the place where I just noticed my life wasn't working. My life was really frustrating. My life was going in a cycle of going with girls, of getting with girls, and then when I got married, it didn't change. Like it just continued. So a year after marriage, and I started into cheating and started into affairs, and that's really what got me like into this whole like cycle thing more and more. And then got to the place where I was like, my life currently is not working. I'm not happy with where I am. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I'm not happy with anything. Not happy with the affairs. I'm not happy with my wife. I'm not happy with my job, like where I am. Like everything was just falling apart, and I was just frustrated with it. And in a moment of clarity, there was like one time where I talked to my wife, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I was like, maybe I'm just a sociopath. And so we looked it up and started going over it, and we were like, no, that doesn't really match up. It doesn't really match some of the stuff. And she was like, maybe you're a narcissist. And so looked up narcissism, and I started looking through, and I was like, no, I don't match up any of these. Like these aren't me at all. And she knew that it was true, but as a narcissist, I'm going to try to get out of it, and I'm going to try to blame and move on the best I can. So that's what I did. So went with that, and I ended up going to other people to try to be able to get validation. So I went to the people that I was cheating on her with, and talked to them, and I was like, "Hey, am I a narcissist?" I was like, "No, I can't be a narcissist." And so they came to my defense, of course, and said that I wasn't a narcissist. Went back to my wife. I was like, "No, I'm not a narcissist. See, you're wrong." Like all this kind of stuff. But that seed was still there, and started going through, and I really started looking into it and being like, actually, I am. Like this is the stuff that I actually identify with. Started going through, reading through DSM-5, the 9 things that are on there. You need to have 5 to be diagnosed, and started looking into it. And I was like, I'm more the narcissist than I want to admit. So I started looking into counseling. Ended up, but from start to finish of like starting to talk about counseling to finally going was close to like a year before I actually did. Once I went to counseling, I got with a counselor where some of the emphasis there is narcissism background. So she's worked with a lot of narcissists, and then also sexual addictions. And so part of that kind of like all went hand to hand, since narcissists typically struggle with addictions, things like that. So Chelsea, thanks for tuning in and helping out. Is your mom or dad a narcissist? So I know my mom's not at all. My dad, I think, might have narcissistic tendencies. Part of the things growing up that I believe like ended up modifying me in one sense as I continued my journey into narcissism was the act of like not being emotionally supportive and not being emotionally like engaged and things like that. And so as a result, got to the place where I started shutting down, started disconnecting my feelings, and started realizing that what I'm going through in early middle school, high school years, what I'm going through, the things that I'm like struggling with or having emotions about, I can't actually go to them. I can't actually talk to them about it because they're just going to come back with a lecture. So one of the first things that I remember that was probably the most influential like in this mindset was when I went to high school and I got hit on by a girl, and she was like, I really like you. And I was like, oh, like, okay. And went back and told my parents, and like my dad was like, that's not something you need to worry about. Like, don't even go there. Like, you got to work, what? I cannot talk tonight. You got to watch out for fortune, fame, and females. And so like, stay away kind of a thing. And like, that just made me more curious. So I went back to school, and I was like, okay, hey, like, let's get together, and started some of that process and everything. So like, I realized like it wasn't a safe place. All right. Sorry, I keep getting notifications on one of these, and I need to get them turned off. 1 second, guys. Sorry. It like keeps buzzing, and I thought I had it on Do Not Disturb, so I don't know why it's doing this. No notifications. All right, there we go. All right, there we go. Sorry. All right, what else we got? All right, so on TikTok especially, what I have done is if you have over 1,000 followers, you can just call in. I've got it set up to do guest requests, so you can actually jump in and do a request to go live. But I'm going to take a look at some of the comments here, some of the questions. I want to be able to see. So I actually was just dropping a video on this. It either dropped today or it's dropping. I don't remember. It's either dropping today or tomorrow. But the idea of like as a narcissist, like formed, are they born? You know, are they just born and it's hereditary? It's just going to happen, kind of a thing, or is it something that they're actually like made? And I think that they're formed. I don't think a narcissist is just inherently going to become a narcissist because it came from narcissist parents. I think that narcissist parents normally breed narcissists, but that's because of how they're raised. It's not because it's like in their DNA or anything like that. Do all nurses cheat? Yes, I think all nurses cheat. So some people disagree. Some people say, "Oh, my narcissist didn't cheat." You probably didn't catch them, to be honest. The other aspect is they probably cheat on you in a different aspect, a different way. Whether it's just putting someone above you, whether it's just being a workaholic, whether it's an emotional affair, a physical affair. Typically, they're going to cheat, and it's going to be some type of cheating. They cheat. They have addictions. They have a lot of different stuff. So, some people do say it's genetic. Some people do talk about like the gray matter, narcissists have less gray matter, different things like that. I haven't done a ton of research, but I also do think that people are products of their upbringing, and they do make choices as well. So I think if you took a kid out of a narcissistic household, like say as a baby, and put them in a nice, loving, empathetic household, I think you'd see different results. Yes, I do have children. So we have a 2.5 year daughter. So she's 2.5, walking around, talking, everything. But yeah. Um, yes, addictions. So addictions are a huge thing with narcissists. Like some people ask, like, do all narcissists have addictions? And like typically they have addictions, obsessions, like a lot of different things like that. Like narcissists really do struggle with addictions, whether it's alcohol, gambling, pornography, sex, like you name it. Like they normally have addictions or have a very high addictive nature. That is for sure. It's kind of like one thing that sets apart a lot of times. I believe my mother-in-law is a malignant, covert narcissist. Any advice? Some of it is just learning to set boundaries, and boundaries aren't always for them. Sometimes boundaries are for you, of like how much you're actually going to put up with. Do they know they did something wrong? Typically, narcissists don't know they do something wrong because they don't want to ever admit that or get to the place that they would be honest enough to say, "Hey, I actually did something wrong." Most of the time, narcissists are going to always think that they're right, and they're going to think that they're right, like no matter what. And they'll just keep trying to be right no matter what. So they'll argue crazy, they'll rage out, they'll get mad, like all this type of stuff. Like narcissists, aren't going to ever get to the place that they admit that they're wrong. Narc's obsession with spy cameras and recording devices, being in control, like knowledge is power. Having one up on someone because they know something, because they can hold something over someone, like that could be very like powerful for them. Like that could be a supply for them in one sense. But yeah, for sure. Is using someone financially typical of a narcissist? I wouldn't say always, but yeah, a lot of times it is. So there was one-on-one that I had a couple weeks ago where the person was talking about how they loaned the narcissist, like I think it was like $10,000, and they never got it back, and the narcissist left. There was another guy that went in with his mom to be able to purchase a house, and stuff with the paperwork fell through. He blamed the mom for it and never gave her back like the 5 grand that she helped him with, and didn't care. A lot of times they'll use people financially. Do they get a new hobby and become obsessed with it and then lose interest in another? Oftentimes, it's not necessarily consistent. I mean, normally their new hobby is a new supply, like a new person, and then they lose interest in another one because narcissists are typical with cycles where they want to be able to cycle through and go to the next person. Um, but yeah, that's a good question. So weaponizing children in co-parenting situations, do they realize or care about the child? A lot of times they don't care about the child, and that's really difficult for a lot of people to hear and very difficult for people to swallow. But you have to remember, a narcissist is looking at their world, their mind as being the number one, the biggest thing, the most important in the universe. And so as a result, they're looking for anything and everything that can be a supply. Oftentimes, kids can be a supply. And so they will enjoy or have feelings or connect with their kid as long as the kid is giving them supply, looking up to them, thinking they're the best in the world, thinking, daddy, mommy is Superman or whatever, and as a result, they'll end up using kids oftentimes as supply. They're using kids to control other people, all that type of things. When a narc is bipolar, how to tell which disease is present doing toxicity. I've never heard of a narcissist being bipolar, like narcissism and bipolar the same. I don't really have a good answer on that. I think a lot of times narcissism disconnects a lot, or sometimes tries to disassociate different things, and as a result, it might look somewhat like bipolar, but I've never heard of it being both together. So you'd have to ask someone else on that. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that. So. Um, some people I think have. I know BPD and NPD are closer as far as like being there, but I haven't heard necessarily of bipolar and narcissism existing at the same time. But I'm sure it's out there. Sure it's out there. Do their families know? His parents seem oblivious. There's really like two sides to that. Either the parents know and they're narcissistic and they don't care, or they're covering up, enabling their child, or the parents are oblivious. So like for my parents, they were oblivious at what I was struggling with. They're oblivious to the lies that I did because I could lie really well. I could lie really well. But the thing is, they didn't think I could. They thought I was an awful liar. They literally thought I could get caught at lying like all the time, and I used that to my advantage. So if I was going to tell a lie that I didn't care if I got caught, I would get caught in it purposely, so they'd be able to think that I was awful at lying. Cannot talk to him to resolve any issue. He tells me I am making matters worse when talking. Yeah, a lot of narcissists don't want to talk. They don't want to actually admit that there's actually anything wrong because that puts them into shame and rage. Do narcissists ever regret leaving their family for someone else? Typically not, because again, they're not looking at that person. They're looking at the next person. They're looking at the next thing. Hey there, good to see you. Would you say that narcissists are intelligent people? Not always. Some narcs are really stupid. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like some narcs like think they're gonna get away with like the stupidest lies. The stupidest lies. That's really crazy. Warrior in the world, do you have TikTok? Because that's where I'd really like to do dual, like have you come on live if you can. Let me know. You mentioned your mom is not a narc. Did knowing she is genuine make lying to her feel bad for you? No. Because like I didn't feel bad about it. Like I didn't feel bad about lying. I didn't feel bad about anything that I was doing because it was all about me. Like it was what I want to do. Gotcha, gotcha. If I disconnect, I don't know if it'll reconnect. We can try it. Give me a second. I don't have anybody on this side. I don't know if I go live with you on Instagram, I don't know if everybody will be able to hear on this side, if that makes sense. We can try it. Does a narc only want 50-50 custody to hurt healthy parent? A lot of times to hurt, to be able to control, to be able to still like manipulate the other person. How old were you when someone first called you out, for lack of a better term? As far as like when they first called me out, as far as narcissism, um, I guess like a couple years ago. So like 31, is the first time. Maybe 30s is the first time I actually like heard about it or anything like that. But yeah, thank you. How do you think your narcissism came to be if your parents were unaware? Lack of emotional support, not feeling safe to be able to share a lot of different things, um, several other things. But yeah. Is sex addiction a trait of narcissism? No, it's not a trait of narcissism. Addiction often goes hand in hand with narcissists, and so oftentimes you'll see like sex addiction, pornography, drugs, alcohol, everything like that. Do you think narcissism is demonic? No, I don't. I think it pulls out a little bit more of people's sinful nature, but I don't think it's demonic. That's a good question. A lot of people do. There's people that definitely come on different things and they want to attack and they want to bash. I had someone on YouTube today actually that was like literally like trashing me up and down. And I was just like, okay. Yeah, no, Lee and I have done lives together. He's come on mine, I've come on his. The thing is, like, whenever I go on his, or either way, whenever he comes on live, it just gets like crazy. Like, we'll get like 300 people in here, and like the comments will be going so fast you can't even read anything. And I feel like half the time people get like upset at us because we're talking or saying something and we missed like 50 questions. It's really crazy. Where in the world? Let's set up a time. Let's set up a time. I don't think I'm going to try it right now because I don't think everybody would be able to hear on other platforms. So I'm not ignoring you, but let's set up a time to do it. I'd love to. Message me. My ex would always barge in my room when I was in the bathroom. Is this something a narc would do? Not necessarily. I mean, a narc really only cares about themselves, but it's not necessarily saying, "Oh, that's a narcissist," kind of thing. Can X be convinced to become self-aware like you? No, you can't convince a narc anything. So trying to convince a narcissist is like talking to a wall. Like you're not going to be able to convince them of something. You're not going to be able to, um, I guess, lack of better words, like manipulate them into admitting who they are. It's going to have to come from them, which doesn't give a whole lot of hope and is really frustrating for a lot of people to hear. But it's not going to work if you force it on them. It's going to be short-lived. Do they Hoover because they miss you, even though they're happy with the new supply? All right, so very good question. I love this question. Did they Hoover? I'm going to read it again. Did they Hoover because they miss you? No. Even if they're happy with the new supply? No, because they're not. Okay, so with that, excuse me, when they're hoovering, a lot of times they hoover either one to figure out if they can do it, two to be in control. So hoovering is all about getting the supply back, getting back in control. And so that's what they're looking for. Like they want to hoover to get back in control. So it's not because they miss you. It's not because they have these emotions, because they have this empathy, because they have this love or anything like that. They literally a lot of times are hoovering just to be able to come back and to be able to get in control of you so that they have supply. They can come and go as they please. They can have their cake and eat it too. Like when they hoover, they're trying to just be in control. So it's not because they miss you. I forgot the second part of that question that I was going to answer. Oh yeah, like they're not happy with the new supply because their narc isn't going to be happy. The narc isn't going to be happy with the life that they're living, with the place that they're going, and with the cycle that they're going to continue on. They're going to think that, they're going to try that, they're going to love bomb, future fake, everything like that. But they're not going to get to the place where they are happy because they're never going to get to a place of truth. And if they can't get truth and have the facts about the situation of what's actually going on, they're never going to get happy. War in the world sounds great. Appreciate it, man. Do you think narcs should be given access to their children, especially if they're inconsistent? If they haven't earned the right, then no, I don't think so. Um, why marry? Good question. Good question. A lot of people ask that. So like, why marry? So sometimes for a narcissist, it's to appear normal. Literally, like it comes down to that. Like sometimes to marry is the idea of like just wanting to appear normal. It's like this is the next step. So like for me, I dated, all through high school, all through college. I got to the place where I, dated in college, and then I got to the place where I was going to get engaged, almost got engaged. That fell through. The dad said no. I was like, forget this. It fell apart. It was like really ugly and awful. And then the next person, got with, dated, engaged, married. And so like part of the thought process was thinking through like, okay, like this is the next step. This is what people do. Like they date, they get engaged, they get married. And so for me, like part of it was like, this is normal. Like this is what I'm supposed to do. Um, Other times people do it out of more like control, like they want to be able to have like a permanent supply. They want to be able to have that person there. Um, a couple different reasons there. But anyways, yeah, like a good question. Um, y'all asking like a ton of questions. I'm not keeping up with them. I'm sorry, guys. How can a married narc justify having a long-term affair but want to stay married? Really good question as well. So, you have to remember the married narc isn't justifying it necessarily because they already think a lot of times that they're entitled to it and they don't have the conscience to say like, oh, this is wrong. So like they're like, I'm not getting what I want from my marriage because it's all about me. So I'll get it from someone else. I'll have a long-term affair with someone else so that I can feel better about myself, so I can get supply, so anything like that. But a lot of times they'll want to stay married, one, to be able to keep the supply, so that they have a constant supply with someone else, and two, because they don't have the balls to admit it. And then three, a lot of times they don't want to actually leave and get rid of that supply because they might have to pay child support, they might have to pay for lawyers, attorneys, all that kind of stuff. Like it's very much like self-centered. So like I would rather stay in a marriage. Like a lot of narcissists are like, I would rather stay in a marriage than leave it because then I have to. Exactly. I have to keep the image. I have to focus on, paying child support. I'll probably look bad at work. I'll probably look bad at church. I'll probably look bad at like all these different places if they see that I'm divorced. I wouldn't always say that narcissists have like another person like talking to them in their head, but a lot of narcissists like their minds are thinking a lot, and so you could almost kind of say that. But I wouldn't say it's like a voice in their head per se. Would a narc hurt a child just so they could be the savior? I think I know what you're asking. I'm not 100% sure, but I would say yes, in some cases, because again, it's all about them. If they can look good, then they'll do it. And sometimes it keeps going to a point that it's an extreme. Um, yeah, y'all have like a ton of really good questions tonight, so I'm sorry if I'm missing any. My rage doesn't necessarily go in cycles. My rage was when I was inconvenienced. So if I didn't get what I wanted, if my plans were inconvenienced, if stuff was on the rocks, with an affair or something like that, then my rage was more prone to just pop up really quickly. But yeah. If any of y'all are new here, my name's Ben Taylor. So I'm a narcissist in recovery and am on these platforms here to be able to talk to people, to bring awareness about narcissism, help bring growth, healing, and change to people out there. So really, that's why I'm posting, short videos. If you don't follow me on YouTube, go to Raw Motivations and follow me on YouTube. I've got longer videos on there. I'm trying to build up my YouTube page so that I can have more consistent long videos where I record shorts that I've posted on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and then I also link back to YouTube as well. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there so you guys know. Probably about a month ago, I just put up a draft of a website. So rawmotivations.com is where you can find me online. I do have a tab there for one-on-ones. So I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm just a guy that's coached people in work and in life, and it gotten to the place where I'm able to connect with people to give them either healing or closure, or kind of work with them a little bit to break the trauma bond or to break stuff that they're dealing with in their own lives. So I do one-on-ones. So people have been asking me about that recently, so I wanted to share that as well on here. I also did announce, at least if you saw on TikTok, if you scheduled to follow the live, I did announce that I had a couple things that I was going to be announcing on here. So I'm going to announce it 3 times throughout tonight because I'm planning on being on here till 10:30. So I'm going to announce 3 times. So one of the things I wanted to announce is people have been asking for a while on several different platforms, on several things. People have been asking for a while about me and my wife, either how we're doing, what's going on, things like that. And so just wanted to put it out there and let everybody know that she's agreed that next week on the 9th, so next Thursday, same time, same place, she's agreed to go live with me. So we're going to do live on here where we'll be live and talking through, answering questions as best we can, just about what's going on, about what's going on in our marriage, about everything that's transpired up until now, what she's been struggling with, what she's been working through, but she agreed to go live and come on here. So that is one of my big announcements. So next week, next Thursday, and we're gonna put it on. We're gonna put a video up that way everybody can see that it's coming. So next Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on Eastern time. So we're gonna be on here. I'm gonna try to do the same thing where I stream on like multiple platforms, but the main one is gonna be on TikTok. So as far as if you have questions or anything like that, grab a TikTok if you want to be able to ask a question. We're going to have several different people on here helping to moderate just because there's going to be a lot of people that are interested in it and everything. So next Thursday, December 9th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, my wife and I were going to be jumping on a live together to be able to answer some of your questions as well. Also, the second thing is I'm rolling out been able to work with a couple different people one-on-one, talking through trauma bonds and talking through how to be able to break those and work with them and try to get to the place where people are able to break out of their trauma bonds and get to the place where they can find healing and growth. And so I've got I've got something scheduled on the 18th. So December 18th, if you go to my website, you can actually pull it up. And it's just a trauma bond kind of a thing. So instead of having like just a one-on-one, I have it opened up. It's open for 10 people to be able to sign up. And it's going to be about like 2.5 hours of us talking through trauma bonds, us having like a couple breakout sessions. I think my wife's going to actually come in for a period of time in the session to be able to talk through some of it as well. But just to talk about trauma bonds, and then my goal is to be able to work with people in that group setting to help them break trauma bonds, to help them understand the basics of it, and to help them start to walk through the facts of how they can continue to grow and continue to change. So that right now for the trauma bond. So trauma bond workshop is December 18th. It's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern time, December 18th. If you're interested in that, go to my website, rawmotivations.com, and you can click on it under one-on-ones. So rawmotivations.com, click on the tab one-on-one, and you can slide down and you can schedule a one-on-one with me. Feel free to schedule a one-on-one, or you can sign up for the trauma bond workshop. So it's just something new that I'm trying. If you guys sign up and you go through it and you don't like it, email me on the side and I'll refund you. Like, it's just something that I'm trying to put out there to be able to help people. And if you go through it and you feel like you're not helped, then just let me know and I'll refund you. Okay. Anyways, that's the two things that I wanted to announce. We'll dive back into questions and everything. Again, I'm going to announce this two more times. So if you're with me the whole live, I'm sorry, it'll get boring. But those two things. So next week, my wife will be going live with us, and then also the trauma bond workshop on the 18th. So those are my two big announcements. I'll put up a reminder on the different platforms. Anyways, all right. Well, you'll have to stay tuned. No, I'm just kidding. My wife is coming live with me next Thursday, and on December 18th, I'm doing a trauma bond workshop that some people can sign up on my website, rawmotivations.com. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and dive back into some more questions here. Should I leave a narcissist alone until they're ready to change? The thing is, they're not going to change until they're ready. So no matter what you do, it's not really going to affect anything. You being in a narcissistic relationship or with a narcissist and they're not changing is just going to give them more supply and ultimately is going to hurt you. Is ultimately going to be toxic to you, to your interactions, to the people that you're around. They might isolate you, all this kind of thing. So typically I would say yes, like you want to leave them alone. You want to be able to get out of that relationship or whatever it is until they're ready to change. All right, let's see here. Ooh. All right. There you go. If their mouth is open, they're typically lying. Yes, so narcissists lie constantly. Um, Narcissists are known for lying, and some people like, why do they lie? Like they lie so much, and they do. They lie like nonstop, like all the time. So narcissists lie about where they are, who they're with, what they're doing, like what they're eating. Like it's crazy. And part of it is it gets to a place where it becomes such a habit. It becomes such a thing that they get used to so much. They're just lying constantly, 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 and it becomes like an instinct. So like even today, like I understand narcissism. I'm in recovery. I'm working with a therapist. I've been in consistent therapy for whatever it is, like 7 months, 8 months, like weekly therapy, and it still is like in the back of my mind of like wanting to lie. My wife will ask me something, and it would be like it's like a knee-jerk reaction of like, oh, I'm gonna tell her this, and then I'm like, wait, no, I can't because that's not actually the truth. And that's the thing that narcissists won't ever get to the place. They won't get to the place where they will admit the truth and they'll cut the lies. Because here's the thing. If a narcissist told the truth, then a narcissist would have to admit the facts. The facts are what they have done, how they've hurt people, how they've lied, how they've done things wrong. If a narcissist got to a place that they admitted what is wrong, then they'd have to admit that they are not perfect, that they're not the center of the universe. Realizing that means that they have to own up and they have accountability, have responsibility. They have to get through actual feelings of guilt and shame and get to a place of truth and healing. Most narcissists aren't willing to even get close to that because they won't stop lying. All they're going to do is just continue to lie and lie and lie. Boyfriend of 4 years, living a double life with his wife, 35 years. Yeah, they live double lives like crazy. Someone put in here disassociation, disconnect. Another way to put it, like they'll disconnect their reality. That's what I did for the longest period of time. Is I would disconnect my reality. I would walk out of the house, dial a number, and be on the phone with, someone that I was cheating with, and then I'd come back home, get off the phone, go back in, be like, hey, I'm home, and it's a, excuse me, sorry guys, it's a crazy disconnect of all of a sudden just like switching it off and being like, okay, now I'm here. Narcissists, like I said about like lying, they'll get to the place where they'll lie about everything because they want to create that false reality that they live in, that they enjoy. Did you have emotional affairs? Yes, I did have emotional affairs. The last one was probably the most that was emotional affair, and I haven't told a lot of my story to be honest. Like I put a lot of my story out there, but there's still like so much more of my story. But the last affair was like backwards, I guess you could say. So it started off as a friend, went physical, then stepped back from physical into emotional, and then stepped back to the place where we were talking, and then stepped back to the place where we were like, yeah, we need to separate and not have any more contact and everything. But that was the only one that went backwards. But yes, most of the affairs were physical. Yeah, so like a narc doesn't want to feel imperfect because they think, again, that they're the center of the universe. They have an inflated sense of ego. They want to think that they're the best thing ever. And they get supply from people thinking they're the best thing ever. They get supply being that savior complex, being that God complex. And so actually having to admit that they're wrong, would just be awful. Um, yes, narcissists are very private a lot of times because they don't want to be vulnerable. If you're vulnerable, so if a narcissist is vulnerable, then I had an equation someplace that I put up one time. I don't know where it is. If a narcissist is vulnerable, then they actually have to admit what's actually going on underneath. And that could actually touch on places of like empathy, which is like scary. Vulnerability is very scary. If you're vulnerable, you have to admit the facts. You have to start admitting the truth. They don't want to admit the truth. If you treat a narc like a king, why will they still leave you? Because again, it's all about them. So after a period of time, they will start to get where they don't get enough, and because they want more, they're always going to go for the next high, the next adrenaline. Did he really love you? Very good question. Did the narcissist really love you? So when you're asking that, when you're questioning like that, did the narcissist actually love you? I need you to take a look at the facts. How did they show love? Did they show love when they were cheating on you? Did they show love when they were lying to you? Did they show love when they were gaslighting you? Did they show love when they were abusing you? You see, sometimes we equate love to that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, and a lot of times the narcissist might think of that as well. Then it fades off because they don't actually want to be accountable for anything. They don't actually want to stick through the hard times. Did he love you? No, because he didn't show it. He didn't act on it. He wasn't a man. He didn't show love because if he loved you, then he would make whatever steps he would need to make to be able to grow and to change. He didn't. That's the thing you have to think through and realize, regardless of what the narcissist said, they have to be evaluated by their actions. Because they can lie up a storm. They can lie like crazy so that you'd never get it. But when it actually comes down to, do they love? Well, look at their actions. Do they actually show that they loved? Typically, not at all. If you cut a narcissist out of your life, will they come back someday just to hurt you or leave you completely alone since they can't control you anymore? If you cut them out of your life 100% and there is no way for them to contact you, then you have the best odds of them never coming back. Not always the case, but the best odds of it. Typically, they want to come back to the place where they control you, where they see if they can control you, or they can see if they can get supply. Y'all are like blowing up the chat over here. Does a narcissist family know how bad of a person they are, or is it usually just the partner? It's usually just the partner, unless the family they came from is narcissistic, then they'll either cover it up or they won't care because it's just another person. You guys pick and choose what women... Sorry, I need to wear a different shirt because the comments are white. Do you guys pick and choose what women to manipulate, cheat, mistreat, or is it the same with all? I don't know why I'm like not having a good understanding of that question. I guess like pick and choose, like a lot of narcissists are like looking for people that they can mislead or that they can lead on or that they can get to a place that they can use them as supply. But as far as like the women fitting inside a certain genre, that's not typically the case. Like you'll find all different types of women that fit into that, just because they're just looking for supply. So sometimes they'll be with someone that other people would be like, why are you with them? Like they're not even attractive. Well, the narcissist doesn't really care. They care that they're getting supply from this person. That's a lot of times what they do. Yes, I would say all narcissists have some form of addiction, some form of obsession. It just depends, what their choice is. Could be supply, could be people, could be drugs, could be alcohol, could be porn. They're typically going to have some type of addiction or obsession. If anything, they're addicted to themselves. But yeah. Do I consider myself normal? I don't really know what normal is. I don't think most normal people are normal nowadays anyways. If a narcissist can't love, how is your relationship going to work now? Well, good question. Lots of therapy and lots of work and lots of redefining what love is, which, to that question, I still am working on that redefining. But realizing that love isn't about me, and it's about the other person. Realizing that love is how I treat another person, how I care for another person, not how that person cares about me, not how that person interacts with me. A lot of times narcissists copy. Someone asked on here, why do narcissists like copy or like mirror personality? Sometimes they'll mirror personality to seem more normal, to seem more human. Sometimes they'll copy personalities so they can connect. Like, oh, you do that too? Like, so do I. You like that music? So do I. Like, it's crazy. Like, we have so much in common. The narcissists, a lot of times they will mirror, they will try to be able to connect with people however they can. So they'll start listening to the same music, they'll start interacting with the same movies, they'll start going, in the same circles, like all that type of stuff. But a lot of times narcissists will type of mirror or like copy your personality. Do they mirror friends and coworkers, just love interests? It kind of depends. I would say mainly just love interests. I wouldn't call it love interest, supply interest. Let's call it that. So supply is just someone that they can connect with, that they can get something out of. So like the idea of like love bombing. If I give you tons of praise, gifts, love, all this kind of stuff, then I can do that and expect something back from you. And then you slowly, thank you. And then you slowly take that away, and then you've got the person hooked. You got the person addicted. A lot of narcissism stems from insecurities and from shame. Yes, that's correct. Why do you make me pay for everything, but now he's paying for everything for the new supply? Probably what you're seeing right now is you're seeing the outside of the love bombing phase. So love bombing, they normally pay for everything. They normally try to make it look amazing. They try to be like the best thing ever. And so like when they're with a new supply, so here's a couple things with this. When they're with a new supply and you're like, wow, they're treating them so much better. Like it must be me. No, it's not you. It's you're on the outside of the love bombing phase. You are watching them. You're watching a master manipulator at work love bombing someone else. And you're looking at it from the outside being like, whoa, he loves him so much. No, he's just love bombing. He's just love bombing. And yeah, he learned something from you. A lot of narcissists will do this. They'll pick up something from one person, so like they'll mirror someone to try to look more human. Then they'll go to the next supply and they'll start using that a little bit more with the next person, and that sometimes gets that supply a little bit longer, gets it a little bit farther before the mask starts slipping down. Yeah, so you guys know, a couple people have asked about like therapy. So I go to a therapist. It's a talk therapist. We talk through a bunch of stuff. So like normally she'll ask, so she'll be like, "How was your week?" And I'll be like, "It was okay." And I was like, these stupid like emotions or feelings like popped up. I was like, these are like dumb. And she's like, "Yeah, I know." So my narcissist, my therapist. She's pretty crazy. She's a redheaded Enneagram 9 with wing 8, and so she can work on trying to bring peace, but she doesn't pull any punches. But she's also crazy because she looks into a lot of stuff that's not into your regular therapy. It's really kind of crazy sometimes. So like I was in therapy this past Wednesday. So I go every Wednesday at 1. I was in therapy with my therapist this past Wednesday, and she was talking to me. I'm gonna botch it if I try to say exactly what it was, but she was talking to me about like internal healing and like being able to sense people's energies and like stuff that she's like researching and looking into. And I was like, what? I was like, that sounds like weird. And she was like, lay down. And I was like, what? And she's like, lay down on the floor. So like I laid down flat on the floor, and she like gets beside me like on her knees, and she like takes her hands and like holds them over me, like probably like 6 inches above me, and she like goes like this, like down my entire body. And I was like, this is weird. And she was like, have your feet and shins been hurting you a lot? And I was like, actually, yeah, today I was in like pain when I was at work because I like wanted to sit down. She was like, okay. And then she like kept going up, and then she got like above my head, and she was like, um, have you had more of a connection with God recently? And I was like, okay, now you're kind of like freaking me out because like I had like over this past week, like I'd had more of a connection with God. I'd been in my Bible more, talking to God, stuff like that. And I was just like, this is weird. But at the same time, like my therapist is a Christian. She also cusses. Like it's just like she does not fit into any genre, but she's literally like perfect to me because we'll get to the place where I'll be like there like bawling, and it's weird. But it's crazy. We spent some time doing some inner work this past week where she's having me like look inside myself, and I'm like, she's like, look for this. And I'm just like, I don't see it. And then like she like talked through a couple things, and all of a sudden I'm like sitting there crying, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. It's crazy. Anyways, my therapist is crazy, but I love her, and it's awesome. Do narcs pick up on empaths more than non-empaths? Do they pick up? I do think a lot of narcs are very observant, very much so. Do not overheat on me. It just like dimmed. I think narcs are like very, very observant. I was talking with Lee the other day of just like how like we're both like very observant of people. Like he loves like watching people and like seeing how people tick and stuff like that. Like that's something that is like really interesting to him. And I think it's interesting too. So like growing up, there's a lot of times my parents would try to keep certain information from me. My dad was a pastor, and so there'd be like different things going on in the church that they didn't want to, share with a kid in the house or whatever. And normally, like, it would come to a point where they might like actually share something, or they might say like, "Hey, like something's going on, so like just don't say anything about this." And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I already know," because a lot of times I could pick up on stuff, pick up on like social cues, pick up on who talked to who, and then there was another conversation or anything like that. Yeah, a lot of nurses are very observant. How can they still love bomb the supply after 5 years? I'm guessing they haven't love bombed the supply the entire 5 years, but it's probably going back and forth whenever either the other person is getting ready to kick out. I'm going to 10:30 Eastern time. I don't know what time zone you're in, but I'm going to 10:30. Did you cover for therapy? No. That was like the weirdest thing. So like when I went to therapy with this therapist, I've been shopping around. I've been going to like four different ones in a period of time, trying to see which one would be the best one. And I went to this one thinking like, okay, like here's another one. I'd already like fired two other therapists, and like went to the one that I'm with now, and sat down with her, and we went with like, it was literally first session. I was like, what the heck? And like went through the first session and got like halfway through or whatever, and I like teared up, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is not me. Like, this is not normal. I was like, who is this person? Like, what is happening? But I literally like teared up, and like instantly, as soon as it happened, I was just like, this is the therapist for me. Because if she got me to do that, then I know something's going on. Like, there's something here that I need to be able to continue the growth, continue the progress. So, stuck with her and been with the same therapist now since March, every Wednesday. It's awesome. It's crazy. But yeah, before that, so to answer your question, before that, I didn't cry at all. Never really cried at all. If there was a time I ever like teared up, like it was kind of like almost like a family joke of like, write that down on the calendar, because that wasn't something that happened. Like I'd go to funerals. Like I went to, my grandpa's funeral. My grandpa was at my aunt and uncle's. We were all at my aunt and uncle's. We were all like everybody was around his bedside, crying, like wishing him bye and all this kind of stuff because they knew he was in hospice, so he knew that he was going to pass away soon. I like sang a song like beside his bed while everybody's like bawling their eyes out. And then he passed away, and we had the funeral. I sang at the funeral, like never shed a tear. Um, and it was kind of like one of those things that I was like, I don't feel that. I was like, okay, like for the narcissist perspective, I was just like, okay, like he passed away. I can't do anything about it. Like next, like moving on. Like very a lot of people don't want to hear that. And it feels weird to be able to say that because I feel like some people want to trash me for it. But like that's y'all don't come here for the fluff. You come here because I try to be honest with you guys the best I can and be vulnerable, and it sucks. But it's also why I'm here. Yeah, a lot of narcissists don't cry. Your narc is demanding no contact. That's interesting. 10 months of if you do this or that, there might be a chance. Have you done this move? He swears that he loves me and misses me. He swears there's no one new. I don't know necessarily about a narc demanding no contact. I mean, shoot, I guess you could say if they demand no contact, that's like perfect breeding ground for them to keep you on the hook and go out and be with someone else. Like narcs love either no contact at times because they can go out and do whatever with supply, or they like the idea of like long distance relationships because they can get their supply over text, FaceTime, phone calls, and then they can go out and be with someone. Um, where are we at? Oh, when did I know I was a narcissist? Um, Time frame's always a little tricky. I guess like year and a half ago, 2 years max, but I think 2 years is stretching it. Year and a half to be safe, so I'm not like but yeah. When a narc where'd you go? When a narc demands no contact, it's just control of you to see if they can break the boundaries. I can see that. Yeah, so for me, whenever I figured out I was a narcissist, like it wasn't so like I guess one or two things. If someone actually gets to the place where they think they're narcissist or admit that they're narcissist, some narcissists will admit it. Like people that say that some narcissists, that all narcissists don't admit they're narcissists, some narcissists do. Like I've had people that have actually said like, yeah, I'm a narcissist. And some people admit it and they don't care. They're literally like, yep, here's my card. I'm a narcissist. Like, screw you. Like some narcissists will admit it and don't care. For me, it was kind of a relief. Like for me, like actually being able to put a name to it, be able to define it, I was like, okay, if I can define it, that means I can actually work on it because you can actually work on something you can understand. You can actually work on something you can learn, and you can grow from it. But you can't work if you have no clue. And so that's why, like early on, I was like, maybe I'm a sociopath. Like I don't know. Like I feel like I don't have emotions the same. I don't connect with people the same. Like I don't know what the heck's going on. And then ended up going towards narcissism, and then realized I actually do match it up. Yeah, narcissists oftentimes will call other people narcissists, especially their partners. But yeah, other people they work with, things like that. A narcissist, if they can call someone else a narcissist and put them on the defensive, it means they don't have time to attack. A lot of times narcissists will take stuff to extreme because it accelerates. It accelerates in their mind. And a lot of times, if you haven't seen my video on one of the platforms, I think I have all of about like of the cycle of like where the narcissist will have a trigger event and then they'll drop down and feel like shame and then guilt and then anger and then blame. And when you go through that cycle so much and so often, you get to the place where that cycle accelerates stuff. So that's why you can go from, excuse me, having a normal conversation with a narcissist to them getting mad, to them raging, to them throwing stuff, to them hitting, to them destroying the house. Like it take a little bit to explain that as far as like how the narcissist cycle and like the shame cycle actually works. But at least for me, it makes logical sense, but I'm also a narcissist. But I try to break it down for some people. Did my wife ever consider call me controlling? Yeah, 100%. I was a narcissist. Still am, but I mean, I'm working on it. Um, what was that? How could he beg not to leave him so that he could turn around and leave me while sick? Who does that? Yeah, so I mean, typically it's because they don't care. A lot of times they want you to leave, but they'll beg you not to leave so that they can look like they're the victim. Probably during that time he probably didn't get supplies, so then he's just like, "Peace, I'm out." Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. There's a lot of comments, guys. Y'all are very patient. I appreciate it. What time is it? Oh, it's 9:30. Cool. How do we have a successful relationship? I didn't for a long time, and we're still working on that. So, my wife's been in counseling, like therapy, for I don't know, a year and a half or so. I've been consistent since March. Before that, I did some EMDR, a couple other counselings and therapies and stuff like that. We've just recently now started to um, do some counseling together, which side note, I do not recommend if you're with a narcissist or have a narcissistic relationship, do not go to counseling together unless they're willing to work on themselves, unless they're willing to go to counseling for a good period of time so that there's actually some truth to the relationship of coming back together. So my wife and I were now going to counseling. We went with one guy for a short period of time, got rid of him because he wasn't helping, and then, well, we're with a different one now. But yeah, so don't do don't do couples counseling. Okay? Why did you do that? Do not do couples counseling because couples counseling, why it froze. Work. Sorry, other thing froze. All right, so typically, which I'm gonna lose my train of thought. Sorry. Couples counseling is not a good thing to be able to do because when you go to couples counseling, they'll play the counselor. Okay, so yeah, you're right there. They'll play the counseling, the counselor. They'll go into counseling and they'll play the counselor so that the counselor thinks that you're the narcissist and not them. And then they'll also like come out of counseling and they will rage at you. They will get so mad. They will come back to the place where they're yelling at you. And the sad thing is, a lot of times they'll get to the place where they'll come back. Well, they'll come back and you'll be leaving counseling, you'll be driving home, you'll be home, and they'll start saying all the stuff in counseling and they will turn it back on you. They will make it your fault. They'll make it your fault for everything. Be like, well, the counselor said this. Like, if you were more loving, I wouldn't have done this. Like, if you had supported me a little bit more, then I wouldn't have done this, or things like that. So, like, you'll see a lot of that. Like, if people go to couples counseling, like, couples counseling for a narcissist is like the perfect way to have ammunition to still control and manipulate the person at home. So that's why I do not recommend couples counseling at all. Yeah, they will make everything your fault. Do narcs discard their children when they become individuals and opinionated? Yeah, I can see that. A lot of times they'll end up doing that. A lot of times they'll get to the place where they don't care, where they disconnect or just, shut it off. Why do they never ever apologize even when they've been physically abusive? You know why they don't apologize? Because apologizing would have to admit that they are wrong. Narcissist isn't going to do that. Apology would have to be admitting that they're wrong. And a narcissist isn't going to admit they're wrong because if they admit that they're wrong, that means they have to take responsibility, they have to take accountability, and they have to get to the place that they actually tell the truth, which they're not going to do. They're not going to do it because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to admit that their false reality that they've built, that is built on lies and is built on infatuations with themselves. That's why they don't apologize. What are your tips on getting, sorry, just like scrolled up to a year of no contact at all? Of getting to it, or you're like almost at it and you're wondering like how it's going to be? Like, not exactly sure where you're coming from there. But I mean, stay the no contact. Like, no contact is the way to have them not come back. Good odds to have them not come back. No contact is a way to protect yourself, continue to grow. Like, go no contact. Um, y'all are blowing up in the comments. I can't even keep up with them. How do Narc comes up with multiple lies and able to keep up with the lies? Some narcissists can't keep up with the lies. Like I said before, like some are really smart and some are really stupid, and they can't keep up with the lies. But yeah, they'll build lies upon lies and they build false realities so that they can feel better about themselves, so they can exist in that reality and they don't have to own up and have accountability. But yeah, yeah, narcissists lies all the time. A lot of people say like if their mouth is open, then they're lying, and that's often true. All right. I need to get like an actual definition because every time I try to explain triangulation, I feel like I'm like stumbling over my words because I do not have the best definition. A lot of times, triangulation is when you're pitting two supplies against each other to be able to improve one or make one do something that you want them to do. This could be supplies that know about each other, supplies that don't know about each other, but like triangulation is typically like trying to increase supply by showing that there's another one there. I feel like I'm gonna botch that, so I'm not gonna keep going with the triangulation. I'm sure a couple of the mods in on here on TikTok can like throw it up and say what triangulation is better than I can. But yeah, cool, cool. All right, it's 9:30, so like I said before, if you guys weren't on here, I was gonna make like two announcements. I already made one earlier. I'm gonna make one now, and I'll make another one at 10. So real quick, just wanted to announce. People have asked for a while, and it's happening next week. So next week, Thursday the 9th, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, my wife has agreed to go live with me, and so she's going to be on here as well. We're going to be just talking, answering questions, just going on and talking through what's been happening, what's going on, what we're working on. She can give some of her perspective, stuff like that. So I'll put it up, especially on TikTok. I'll make another event so people know. I'll try to announce it on other platforms since I'm trying to stream on those as well, for the live. But next week, Thursday the 9th at 8:30 p.m., she's going to be coming on live as well. And then second announcement is December 18th. I'm well, that can't talk. December 18th, I'm offering a trauma bond workshop. So I do one-on-ones. If you guys don't know, I do one-on-ones with people. Rawmotivations.com. You can go there and sign up for one-on-one just to help promote awareness, help get healing to people, and also help like breaking trauma bonds. And so I'm doing a trauma bond workshop December 18th at 1, I think it is, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But you can see it. Go onto my website, Raw Motivations, click on one-on-ones, and you see a trauma bond workshop. It's going to be about like 2.5 hours, and I'm going to have my wife come on there as well. And yeah, anyways, I told people I was going to be announcing about it, so I'm announcing it now, and then I'll announce it again at 10 before we get off at 10:30. But anyways, thank you all so much. We're going to dive back into more questions. Separated with my husband. He's been watching your videos and admits he does have some traits. He said he will get therapy. Should I keep no contact? Well, how are you no contact if he contacted you? That's not the definition of no contact. I would be very careful. Um, I mean, I said I was going to get into therapy for like a year before I did, it just kept stringing along my wife for a period of time. So I would say no contact until you actually see change, until he's actually in therapy for a period of time and he's willing to change and do the work. If he's not willing to do the work, it's not worth it. He doesn't care. All right. Y'all having like a side conversation. So what's going on? Has your wife forgiven you for cheating? Yes, she has. So it's a long process. She's read a lot of books, a lot of therapy, and um, she'll probably talk about that some and also probably share some of the books that she's read that have helped her. But yeah, good questions. Do you hate the person that gives you supply? I wouldn't say typically, or initially, but then a lot of times a person gets to the place that they're looking for, that next high, that next adrenaline, that next supply in one sense, and as a result, they start devaluing and discarding the person that they once said that they loved, but they didn't actually love them, they just love what they got out of the person. So when that starts to fade away, then it ends up looking like or being hate. Does my wife go to counseling with me? So currently we do. Again, side note, if you're on here, I do not recommend going to counseling with a narcissist. She's been in therapy for about a year and a half. I've been going consistently since March. Did a little bit of therapy before that. Just recently, we're now starting into doing like couples therapy together. Did being in a narcissistic state give you a high? I wasn't necessarily in a narcissistic state, like that's just how I was. So I'm not sure where you're going with that. But like I would get a high off of people, you know, I would get a high off of people, loving me, thinking that was the best thing ever, because I thought I was. Did I see that? I caught the end of the live with Adam Clusterby and Cree the other day. I just caught the end of it. I didn't see the whole thing. Learning empathy, definitely like cognitive empathy of like knowing or thinking like this is what I'm supposed to do, kind of a thing. But yeah, the empathy thing is still a process. Do they resent you whenever you catch onto the lies and manipulation? A lot of times they do because you're catching them in the lies and they don't want to admit that they have lies. They want to admit that they're the best person ever. So they'll get frustrated, they'll resent, they'll devalue, they'll discard because you're starting to catch who they really are. Does a narcissist miss the X out of discard? No, especially if they did the discard, they won't at all. Does a narc seek revenge after narc injury? It really depends. Like, there's a lot of different. It's hard because there's so many different strains of narcs in one sense, like how they interact, how they respond to different people. But yeah, there is a decent amount that they will seek revenge. If you're the one that betrayed them, that had like narcissistic injury or whatever, um, yeah, they will do that. A lot of times they're stalking. So a lot of times they're stalking because they still want to have control. Sometimes they're stalking because they want you to know that they're stalking. They want you to still feel like that pressure. Sometimes they're stalking because they want to see how you're actually doing and they won't believe anything because in their minds um, they still think that you want them. They still think that you're into them or whatever it might be. If you did the discard, I don't remember what your first question was, but if you did the discard, like stay that no contact, like do not open up the doors. If you did the discard, keep those doors locked and let them go away and find someone else. If you discard the narcissist, will they come back? They'll probably try to hoover. They'll probably try to get you back, just as a control thing. Not because they want you back, but because they miss the control, they miss the supply. Y'all have thrown up so much stuff, can't catch it all. They do try until you stop responding or find new supply. How long does it take of no contact before they believe it's over and leave you alone? That varies. That really does. Biggest thing. So, I mean, the biggest thing with no contact is like sometimes it'll be like, oh, I'm going no contact, but they emailed me the other day and I'm like, okay, like you should have them blocked, I'm going no contact and they text me today. I'm like, that's not no contact. Like, that's just like, oh, I'm not going to respond. Like, that's not what's going to be helpful. That's not what's going to be helpful. Like, you really got to make sure that you block. Do they always have a grade A? No, not all the time. And again, remember, grade A is a bad thing. It's not a good thing. What do I do if I have a child with a narcissist? How does no contact work? Really good question. So, with no contact, you have to set a lot of boundaries and you have to set a lot of barriers, especially when you're dealing with a kid in the mix, because that can be really hard. They can use the kid to manipulate all this kind of stuff. And a lot of times they'll use the kid to get to you. So you'll be like, oh, they'll be like, oh, I want to FaceTime my kid or something like that. So like, you'll like FaceTime and then they'll start talking to you because that's what they want to do. They want to be able to control you. And so with parenting, co-parenting, or coexisting in one sense with a narcissist, maybe you're separated and you have a kid, you do have to figure out how to limit it really well. So a lot of times, yes, like Chelsea mentioned there, like mediators, only corresponding through email, like at the max, but using like a mediator is probably like one of the best ways. That way there's just no contact at all. You want to be able to have no contact. Grade A supply is typically a term that's thrown out there of being like the narcissist's best supply, the person they keep coming back to, the person that they're with long term, they get the most supply out of it. Um, yeah, grade A supply, I don't really like it, but like grade A supply is like that like pinnacle of like the best supply, the best high that the narcissist gets or whatever. But they'll look for supply for like anybody. You wish you could have no contact. Anything is possible. It might not seem possible, but anything is possible. There's a lot of people that have made plans and have gotten out. But yeah. What's up with the I'm gonna block you, then blocked? then message to see if they did block and they didn't. Head games. Yeah, so there's a lot of head games with the narcissist. So like here's the thing. And people ask me, and I've done a couple of videos on this and everything like that. Then people ask, like, when's the last Hoover? Like, when are they gonna stop coming back? Like, the narcissist is gonna stop coming back when you make sure they don't come back. When you close the door, lock the key, throw it away, when you make sure that there's not a way for them to contact you, that's when they're going to start not coming back. And so some people are like, oh, well, they said they were going to block me, or like I was hoping they'd leave and block and all this kind of stuff. The narc isn't going to block you. And if they do block you, it's not long term. It's just a form of manipulation and control. Personally, like if I block you first, I've got the upper hand because typically if I block you first, that means you can't block me. That means later on down the road, I can unblock. I can either view your stuff if it's public or I can reach back out and at least some messages are going to get through and mess with your head. So whenever you break that, make sure you block because you can't expect them to have the guts or the maturity to actually block you or stay that way. Block them, move on. Otherwise, I wouldn't say they always come back, but there is a high probability most of the time they do come back. So the easiest way is like why worry about them coming back? Block them and make sure that they are blocked. You can still block on some social medias. It's a little challenging to block them if they block you first. Like just be able to find them. Sometimes it doesn't pop up very easy. So typically they're going to try to come back for control. Sometimes just to see what they can do, see if they still have that. A lot of times they think that you still want them, even though you don't, even though you realize it's toxic. They don't really care. My wife left for almost 3 months. Almost 3 months where we had about no contact. It wasn't fully no contact then, though. The narcissists get better with age and responsibilities, not if they don't admit their lies. If they don't get to the place where they admit their lies and actually own up to the truth, they don't get better at all. They just get old, cranky, and die alone. Narcs, competitive, grudge holders, exhausting, yeah. I don't have any thoughts on that right now. I'd have to look up some stuff. I believe narcissists are from their upbringing. So I believe everybody is a product of their upbringing. And so you put a person in an environment that's going to breed narcissism and you'll get a narcissist. You'll put a person in an environment that's going to breed, empathy and love and you'll get an empath. I don't think some people disagree with me and that's fine. But I don't believe that a narcissist is just like genetic or born that way. I think everybody has choices and decisions and everybody's a product of their upbringing. That's why I also think that narcissists can change. They typically won't because they won't admit the lies. Did I ever discard and try to go back and the supply moved on with someone else? The majority of the time, the other person discarded me. That way I could either be the victim or they started realizing who I was or I was over controlling, like different things like that. But typically, I got discarded and there wasn't a chance to ever go back to most of the time. Yes, very true. Parenting is one of the most important jobs in the world because as you parent, you start teaching your kids how to be a narcissist or how not to be a narcissist. So like working through, their emotions, their feelings is really key. Is really key. A lot of people are like, how do I, not have I have a YouTube video that's coming out later this week about, what if you have a potential narcissist as a kid, how do you work with that? Working with them to be able to acknowledge their feelings, their thoughts, be able to work through their emotions and have them learn of how to control their emotions and not have their emotions control them. Being like able to understand, hey, I know that you're frustrated. I know that you're struggling, but we can work through this. So some of that's gentle or respectful parenting. Some of you guys know that. Some people might love it. Some people might hate it. I don't care either way. But I also know that not respectfully working with your kids will produce narcissists. So, yeah, my wife is definitely on the empath side. So yeah, she's definitely empath side. Should you fight with a narc back or complete waste of time? Typically, it's a complete waste of time because they're right no matter what you say. Um, I was joking with my wife the other day, and I was like, we should do like a silly argument in front of you guys to be able to see like how the narcissist like manipulates the argument. So like, um, we always joke about it, but like we always, I guess one of like our funny arguments you could say in one sense is about like time zones. Like we talk about time zones and we talk about like California being 3 hours different. And I always say they're 3 hours ahead. She says there's 3 hours behind, and we'll like literally go back and forth debating it like till we're blue in the face, and like I'll still be right, she'll still be right. That's like a funny example, but like when you argue with a narcissist, it's literally just like you're not gonna win. You're not gonna one up. You're not gonna rage more than them or anything like that. But yeah, so the narcissist always is right and always thinks that they're right. Yeah, it is pretty funny. I mean, it's a pretty big joke. We've gotten upset on it before, but it's a pretty big joke now. Um, Talk about the hypocrisy. Yeah, I mean, narcissists are hypocrites because they're liars. You know, they'll so yeah, so a good example of that is a narc will go out and they'll cheat, and then the empath goes out and cheat, and the narc's like, I'm done, like you can't deal with that, you know. But they expect the empath to be able to come back and forgive them, 20 times over kind of a thing. How do they feel when you move on? A lot of times. Let's say half the time, because I'm not an expert on this. A lot of times there's narcs that don't believe it when you move on. Like I know some narcs where they'll literally look at the person's profile and they'll be like, "Oh, they're married." Like I know one person that they were like, "Oh, they're married. They just put that up as fake, but they still want me." Like literally, like the mind twist is like really crazy sometimes. How do you know if you're an empath? I don't know. I'm not empathic, so I don't know how to be one. Sorry. Um, Supposed to forgive and reconcile despite his abuse, but one mistake from him and I'm discarded. Yeah, no, that's 100%. And like that's what the narcissist like touts of how they're, completely hypocritical in that area. They'll feel betrayed and they'll be like, screw you, you betrayed me, like when they've done it like a million times over. But again, you have to remember their mindset is completely about themselves, not about you, not about love. Have you personally gotten down to your source of shame from doing therapy or shadow work? Yes, some, and we're still digging into that more. I wouldn't say I have it all figured out, but that's why I'm going to be in therapy for like the rest of my life. But besides that, yeah, like we're slowly digging through stuff. It's taking a while. Do you ever think about the past supplies you've hurt? Yes. Does it get exhausting living in a life of cheating and lying? Absolutely. Gets super tiring. Then you get um, super drained. Then you sedate. And then you get mad that you're sedating. Then you feel shame about that. Then you feel guilty. Then you blame everybody else. Then you get angry and you do it all over again. Do narcs try to hide their feelings? Yeah, a lot of times they hide their feelings. They shut down their feelings a lot of times. I can barely keep up with these. Y'all are like blowing it up. It's awesome. Um, Do I resent how my parents raised me? No, because up until like recently when I started realizing about narcissism, I had no clue. I thought my childhood was normal. I was like, they love me and like, didn't think anything of it. And so it's been more recently like figuring out like, okay, a little bit more overbearing, a little bit over controlling. I'm in my 30s and like like a year or so ago, like we had to kind of tell them like back off a little bit because like I'm a grown person. I should be able to make my own decisions. Not that I wasn't making my own decisions, but they were giving advice and telling me how to in one sense. Um, so in a narcissist's mind, when they're loving, love for them is all about themselves. So a narcissist can't love another person when they have themselves up on that pedestal. So if I love myself, there's not really much room for me to love someone else. I don't remember a ton of my childhood, no. Um, Even in therapy, like working through some stuff, like some of that is also trying to bring back gaps. I've got a lot of gaps. Got a lot of gaps, life period, but childhood is a little bit different. I need something more. When alone, are they truthful to themselves about their behavior? No, not really. I think sometimes narcissists have like moments or like, a moment of realizing some stuff. But no, they're not really real. How they react to restraining order, it's a challenge. It's a boundary. I know there's one guy that Lee talked to or that knew about that the restraining order put out on this person was 100 feet, and he literally went out. He was more of a sociopath. He went out and I think he used like spray paint or chalk, and he marked like 100 feet outside the house, and then sat outside that radius. They view it as boundaries to be able to walk up and touch and then cross over. Or the best thing about a boundary is if you get the other person to break the boundary, that's like the ultimate win for the narcissist. Tears to the narc typically not real because a lot of times they don't cry, and a lot of times when they use emotion, it's to manipulate, not because they actually feel something. So there's nothing. Okay, that's a good question. So instead of going no contact, what's wrong with loving him in hopes we fix it? Me being the one who saw worth in it, like where wife is for you. So my wife left for a period of time, and my wife for a period of time didn't see the worth. The difference was she saw the change. She saw me trying to change. She saw me trying to be different. That's what brought her back. Excuse me. And that's why she stayed. The the really like two sides to this because there's some people on social media that when you say like, "Oh, I'm staying with my narcissist," that will literally like trash you, and I do not like those people at all. But there's also people that like they're stuck in the relationship, like it's not opportune, they don't have the money, they don't have the resource to be able to get out, or there's people that are there in the relationship that they actually do see the narcissist making some changes. Okay. And with that, there is the possibility of staying in that relationship, loving them, and trying to work through it. With that, you have to set boundaries. You have to set boundaries, and those boundaries are not necessarily always for them. Your boundaries are for you. YouTube and TikTok. TikTok's the main one. Those boundaries are for you. Those boundaries are for you to be able to protect yourself. You don't want to leave yours alone, like to stay with your narcissist. Yeah, and a lot of times that goes to trauma bond, and it goes to a place where, see, a lot of times people don't want to give up the narcissist because they view hope, okay? And hope is normally built on the aspect that one, they think that love is going to come back, or they think that they can change them, okay? So let's fix this right now. One, you can't change a narcissist. Has to come from them. If you change a narcissist, it's temporary and it's going to fail. Second one, I forgot because I got caught up in the first one. But you're not going to be able to change a narcissist, no matter what. You're not going to be able to change them unless they get to a place where they're willing to admit the lies and they'll get to the place that they have healing and growth. They're not going to change. What was the question? Because I forgot. There's another part that I had to it. I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. Oh yeah, yeah. The other aspect is like people like hope. They hope in like the love. They hope that they're gonna get the person back that they first fell in love with. The thing is, the person you fell in love with, if they're a narcissist, the person you fell in love with was a facade. The person you fell in love with was fake. The person you fell in love with was probably mirroring back you, like some of your good attributes, because that was one way to be able to hook you. But the person you fell in love with wasn't real. And that's a hard thing to be able to move on from a trauma bond is literally you're mourning the death of someone who didn't exist but who is still alive. You're mourning the death of someone who actually never existed, but you can't move on as easy because they're not dead and gone. They're still here. You still have to go no contact. You still have to wonder if they're going to show up. Like, it's crazy. Do they have to be in therapy for the rest of their life? I would say yeah, if they want to change. Okay. Trauma bond is definitely one of the hardest things. But a trauma bond can be broken. Some people think it can't. A trauma bond can be broken. There is hope. That's what I do. I try to be on here to bring awareness, growth, healing, and change. And I try to work with people. So I work with two types of people on here. I work with narcissists. I do. I have conversations. I have one-on-ones with narcissists. I try to get them to therapy. I try to get them to the place where they start cutting the lies. They start dealing in truth. And I deal with people who are struggling with trauma bonds and their narcissistic abuse. So that's why it's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to announce it again. That's why coming up on December 18th, I'm doing a trauma bond workshop to try to work with people that are in trauma bond. We've got it open now for 10 people that can sign up December 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to sign up, go to rawmotivations.com. One-on-ones, there's an event there, trauma bond, and you can go on there. And really my goal is to be able to work with people to try to help them break that trauma bond. Second thing that I'm going to announce, sorry if you've heard it 3 times, but I'm going to announce it again. Second thing I'm going to announce is people have been asking for a while. My wife have finally agreed to. So next Thursday, December 9th, my wife is going to be coming live with me as well to be able to talk about her side of it, to be able to talk about some of her perspective, to be able to answer questions, things like that. So if you guys want to hear from the wife's perspective, come back next week on December 9th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And be nice. She's an empath, so when people put stuff that's not very nice, she takes it to heart. Rawmotivations.com. So click the link in my bio, click the website on my YouTube, click the link in my bio, rawmotivations.com. Got a lot of people that schedule one-on-ones with me. I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, I'm just a guy who deals in the truth, because the truth is what's going to set you free. The facts are going to set you free. I've lived my life in lies for the longest period of time. Joy is really hard for a narcissist to feel. Joy is really hard for me to feel. The times I feel like I get closest to joy or I experience joy is when I focus on gratitude. When I focus on gratitude, being thankful, and to take the focus off of me, that's when I start tapping into joy. Got some more stuff listed about that I need to like look up that actually I could actually like read off to you guys. But yeah. How did I feel when I was discarded? So sometimes it depends. Like sometimes it'd be like great because then you could be with someone else. But typically, like when a narcissist is discarded, it's really frustrating. Sometimes they'll end up obsessing and things like that, because they just lost control, because they just lost that power over someone else. Um, why do you think schools are not teaching narcissism? That's a good question. Part of it, like narcissism has been around for a while. People haven't been talking about it for a while. I mean, obviously COVID brought out like a whole horde of narcissists once they have to interact and be human to the people around them. But a lot of it also goes through our culture. Our culture is screwed up. Our parenting is screwed up. Um, yeah. You keep asking a question. I think I missed it. Do I feel guilty of cheating? Yes. So that's something that I do feel and I do understand. A lot of it is more head knowledge than it is like emotion per se. But I also realize that that is the shit that I was in, and I don't want to go back to that. Um, I don't necessarily miss the cheating. It would be more or less like the thing that I would miss about it would be like the high or the adrenaline. And so looking to figure out like how do I make sure that I don't put myself in a situation where that can happen. That's really key. And a lot of that comes with the honesty. Yeah, narcissism is definitely one of the biggest trends currently. But it's been around for a while. I've got, I don't have any of my books down here. I need to bring my books down here. That way I can actually like reference some of it. But the Narcissist Epidemic. It's an older book that has like research and stuff in it, which is really kind of fascinating. Do narcs ever feel bad for how they treat us? Typically, no, because it's all about them. It's not about you. If a man says he has narcissistic tendencies, what does that mean? Maybe he's actually admitting it, or maybe he's trying to downplay it. What'd you say? Was it scary to start sharing your story? Yeah, it was, especially on TikTok. TikTok was, I don't know why TikTok scared me for a while. I had my TikTok account for a couple months before I actually posted. And I was like, well, finally, might as well do it. Part of that I feel is like healing to me because it's just another aspect where I'm trying to show truth and honesty. This is an interesting question. All right, can you explain what most narcissist relationship with God is like? Do you fear death and retribution? So, two aspects on that. One, a lot of narcissists don't have a relationship with God because they're their own God. They want to be the center of the universe, and so they don't really view God as being anything. Okay. The other aspect is you have a lot of narcissists in the church, in Christianity, and all this type of stuff, and a lot of times they're using God, or they're using that lie to be able to perpetuate what they want. And so with what they're doing and how they're doing wrong, how they're sinning and things like that, they normally don't fear death or retribution because they don't care. It's about themselves. It's about what they want. Do you want consistent validation? Yes, that would be a want for sure. That's something I still struggle with. Not as much, but yeah, it's still a tendency. It's still there. Um, yeah, I mean, a narcissist doesn't want to talk about what they've done. They don't want to own up to any of it. Do narcissists hate being exposed? Yeah, typically because it's going to affect their ego. It's going to affect their image. So sometimes people call it a narc injury when they actually expose them to the world. Um, it is actually funny on Facebook, on my raw motivations on Facebook, someone was calling me a bunch of words and saying I was this awful person, which I am and I have been. But they said a bunch of stuff, and at the end they were like, "You better not report this comment, or I'll tell the world who you are." And I'm like, "Go ahead, like I'm putting it out there, like people know." People know who I am, and I'm okay with that because that's part of my journey. It's part of being honest. Depends about the narc. Sometimes it's attention, sometimes it's validation. I think for me, it's a little bit of both. Because some narcs, they just want the attention, whether it's good or bad. They don't care about the validation. They just want the attention. Don't go to marriage counseling with a narc. They'll use it against you. If you go to counseling, like I would advise not going to a Christian counselor unless they are well versed in narcissism. Otherwise, you will get trashed, or you'll get labeled a narcissist, or they'll tell you that you aren't doing a good enough job. Should we talk about our experiences with our ex-narcs to people? You have to be careful because whatever you communicate to the next person could be used against you if they're a narc as well. I wouldn't say always, but typically if someone's with a narc, it's more common for the next person to be a narc as well because they'll go back towards the same tendencies, even though they know that that's toxic. Are they jealous of their partner? Maybe sometimes of like attributes. Are they jealous of their partner? Maybe sometimes of like attributes, status, the other person's ego, where they are in work. Um, so he feels both of these, love and hate. Oh, you're responding to someone else. If I have a child with a narc, should I expose him? I don't want my child to get hurt. Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful because you have to see. You know your narc better than anybody else, so you might know their tendencies of, violence or anything like that. You have to be careful. Um, I'm not going to encourage you one way or another because I don't want to say, well, it works for one person and then have you use it and it doesn't work for you. Like, you have to be careful. Definition of a narcissist. There's a lot. There's nine characteristics of a narcissist. You have to have five to be diagnosed. DSM-5 is one of the best resources to be able to look that up. I feel like if I gave it off the top of my head, I would botch it. Sometimes I get on here and read it. Um, I don't remember if I have. Can I switch off of this? It's still live. Okay. No, stop. There's a video coming out. Ah, there's a video coming out about that question. Yeah, I don't know where it is, and I'm gonna lose my train of thought. So, any insight on why narc ex-husband isn't returning my belongings? Control, because he can control you. If it's not a belonging that you can't replace, like if it's not a 100-year-old heirloom from your great grandmother passed down generations that has a bunch of emotion to it, then cut ties and move on. If I hold something of yours, then that means I still have a way back in. I still have a way to control you. I still have a way to get back into your life. Do narcs get caught intentionally in lies if they know it will hurt you? Like give away their location when they're with someone else? Yes, good question. So I was talking with a narcissist a couple days ago when we were trying to work on some healing and growth, and they communicated to me that they intentionally went out and cheated and then came back, told their wife because they knew if they did that, that the wife would leave. Like that was a conscious thought in their mind that if I want to get out of this relationship, I don't have the balls to actually say I don't want to be in this relationship. So I'm going to go out, I'm going to cheat with someone, come back, tell my wife that I cheated just to be able to get rid of it. True story. Block them on everything. Yep. On all platforms. Venmo, Spotify, PayPal, social media, like everything. Yep. Are narcs physically abusive or only sociopaths? Narcissists can be physically abusive. It's a cycle. It's a chain reaction. It's accelerated. You get one thing, you move to the next. All right. So with Chelsea, are you still on here? Didn't you make? I think if Chelsea's still on here, she made a video just the other day about closure, which I thought that was really good. She either made a video or she stitched me. I don't remember. But like Chelsea had a really good video about it, and it was saying like you're not going to get closure from them because closure is I'm gonna botch it. Sorry, Chelsea. But closure is like internally. Like closure is like you getting healing, you getting growth, and you're not gonna get no worries. You're not gonna get that from another person. You're gonna get closure from you growing, from you changing, from you setting boundaries, from you getting to the place where you understand your worth, you're able to grow. Yeah, if a narc says there's no one else, it's probably a lie. Would I ever reach out to a narcissist if a victim of one asked me to? Probably not. Um, the narcissist talking about a narcissist, but if you ask me to reach out to your narcissist, I'm probably not going to waste my time. I'm not trying to say that mean, but if your narcissist actually wants to heal and change, direct them to my website, have them do a one-on-one. I've met with many narcissists, and I'm willing to meet with narcissists. I don't mind meeting with narcissists, but it has to be from them. I'm not going to waste my time knocking on that door if they don't care. Do narcs get worse with age? Typically, from what I know. Should I send the closure letter or no point? I would say no point. Um, Some people have left closure letters. I mean, the biggest thing is not the closure or a letter or a note. The biggest thing is what you do after with it, that you make sure that they don't have contact with you. Like if you reach out to them, even if it's in like a letter form, they'll use that to be able to try to come back. Super scared about leaving. Like, please be careful, protect yourself. I don't think Heather's on today, but Heather Coleman Voss, if you don't follow her on TikTok, she's only on TikTok right now. But Heather Coleman Voss, she's worked with a lot of people to get out of relationships or that are in like workplace abusive narcissistic relationships. But yeah. For me specifically, like growing up, as far as like narcissism, was more along the lack of emotional support, having that kind of going back and forth, and then more of like overbearing, over controlling parents. Great questions, everybody. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Do they care about closure for themselves? No, not really. They just move on to the next person, to the next supply. Do they feel an incompleteness from not solving anything? I would say yes, at times they do feel incomplete. They're always trying to fill a void that they're never going to be able to fill, because they're not looking for it in the right places. They don't know how to fill it. Lack of emotional support. Oh, like for me, so like being able to process emotions, being able to process like things going on in my life and not having an open or a safe environment to be able to do that. So like if I was like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'm thinking about this, or I'm feeling this, and all I got was like a lecture, or like I wouldn't say like actually devalued, but more be like low key devalued in one sense by like I can't think of the word, like downgrading what I was feeling or thinking, then that kind of like lack of emotional support would be more like what I was experiencing. So like for me, like part of my story is I had an aspect of a lack of emotional support, and then I had some people come into my life that provided that emotional support for a period of time, and then I screwed that part up and I lost that whole family, and that was taken away. And so some emotional trauma there, that kind of tied over a lot of stuff. Um, I feel like if I sat down and I actually like told my story, we'd be here like all night. I think I would get confused and it'd be kind of like all over the place too, because sometimes there's like gaps and things like that. Overbearing, over controlling, as far as like not necessarily just like rules, but just like at times rules that didn't have um a bigger meaning than just either what they wanted or how it conformed to, our culture or society that we were in one sense. As far as like overbearing, as far as like all the way up into my 30s, like still like giving like unsolicited advice, still trying to control to some degree, or like manipulative, like, you really should do this, or like lecture, or like different things like that. It wasn't until like a year and a half ago that like my wife had a conversation with them and I had a conversation with them like separately. Not really a conversation, more like a video sent. As far as just like kind of back off. My wife actually did that one time when we were not talking, and she like sent a pretty powerful video to my parents, just being like, if you want your son to be in your life, you need to back off and treat him like an adult, basically. But yeah, stuff that I didn't realize. So typical emotions that a narcissist will feel is anger. But they also feel a lot of times like guilt and shame, but it's very small, it's very tiny, because you want to try to move past that uncomfortable feeling as fast as you can, because feeling that would actually admit that there's something wrong, that you have to admit, that you did something wrong. They normally don't feel a ton of like joy or appreciation or love. Anger is probably one of the easiest ones to go to. Uh, Narcs a lot of times don't feel happiness. They feel the high. They feel like the addiction. Um, Physical support, like growing up, like hugs, kisses. I think it was there. I don't really remember that. Do you think, no, if your parents watch your lives, do I care? I know that they haven't yet. They haven't found me yet. They will one day, and I'm sure I will have that conversation. They haven't found me. I honestly thought that there was an article that came out on the New York Post and in the Sun, and it got shared a couple other places. I honestly thought they were going to see that article. And whenever we went down for Thanksgiving, like they offered to pick me up from the airport. Like I seriously thought they'd saw that article and they wanted to talk to me about it. But as far as I know, they don't know. I know they don't have a TikTok, so at least that part's safe. But everything's getting shared now on YouTube and everything else. How will the narc feel with their old supply moving on? They might feel a little jealous that they're losing control, and sometimes they won't believe it. They'll still think like, hey, they're moving on, but they still want me. They still think about me. No, I typically don't feel sympathy or empathy, especially if it's something that I've like noticed or said. So like, for instance, if I told my daughter like, "Hey, don't set that there, it'll fall," and then she sets it there and it falls, like my immediate thought is like, "Well, it's your fault because you set it there." Like I don't have, and she starts crying or something like that, I'll be like, "Oh, it's your fault. Like you shouldn't have said it there. Like I told you not to." Like that's what goes through my head. So not a lot of sympathy or all. Sex or intimacy used for, so like most time like um porn addiction is just a sedation. You know, it's just a way to be able to sedate and be able to get instant gratification. So they feel better about themselves, so they feel loved, so they feel like someone's paying attention to them, so they get off on it. But like sex or intimacy, like narcs don't have a ton of intimacy, but like sex is just that self gratification. How have I made my marriage a success? Well, it hasn't been for a long time. It's been a shit show. But now we're working on it, and that's been me working on it, me being in therapy. Now we're both in therapy for a period of time, but trying to cut the lies, get to a place of truth, and with truth, you can start working through being able to be better, being able to learn how to love, learn how to connect. Why would a narc like to cuddle? Some validation. If the person's cuddling them, then they feel better about themselves. They feel validated. They feel they get like supply off of that. Not all narcs do that. Some do. How do narcs confront the death of a close family member? My narcs seem emotionless. Yeah, a lot of times they are. A lot of times they'll shut off emotions. They won't cry at all. That was me. I didn't do that at all with death in the family. Just kind of moved on. Did you ever feel like discarding your wife? Yes, definitely. Someone said narcs don't cuddle. Yeah, I mean, majority of them don't. Like that doesn't fit their normal genre, but some do. As far as like maybe I don't remember what it's called, like vulnerable or like victim. Yeah. Some of the reason why my wife stuck around is that she started seeing change. Um, if I wasn't still changing, or if I was still cheating, or like anything like that, like she'd be gone. Do they use tears to manipulate? Yes, they can. Some of them can turn it on and off. So the girl that I was with for a period of time that I was cheating on my wife with, she was had BPD and NPDs, like BPD and narcissistic tendencies, and she could turn the tears on and off like on a switch. It was kind of creepy, but she'd do that to get what she wanted. Why didn't I discard my wife? Some of that goes back to my upbringing. Some of that goes back to my faith in Christianity, that like I didn't feel like I had the right to, because I was the one that hurt her. And also like I didn't have the balls to do it either. But there's a part of it that I didn't feel like I had the right to. But in my mind, as a narcissist, if she cheated on me, then my immediate like knee-jerk reaction to be like, see you, I'm gone. How did my wife process it? It's a good question for her. Come back next week on the night at 8:30 p.m. We'll be on here together. Do I struggle with lying? Yes. That's been a habit my entire life. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm on here, but that's also just me trying to work on myself, work on truth. But yeah, after a while, like narcissists struggle with lying and they get to the place where it's just like a um, knee-jerk reaction. It's like an automatic response. Yeah, it's like an automatic response. It's just a reaction. Do narcs see us as weaklings? A lot of times, because a lot of the narcs see themselves as being superior to other people, and they view that everyone else is inferior or stupid. So a lot of times, narcissists will see other people as being inferior or lesser, because again, it's about their ego. Thank you, I appreciate it. Trying to be straight up, trying to be honest. I consider myself a covert narcissist, definitely covert. More overt as far as like in the workplace, but more covert in general. Are narcissists capable of being in love? Yes, once they stop loving themselves. Someone asked me, I think in here, of do I love my wife? Yes, I do. But part of that is like redefining love and working so you do feel love. Okay. No, the feeling not as much. Okay, the feeling not as much, but the thought process of the feeling has to change from what I've viewed love in the past. Like what I've viewed love is like I love you based on how much you love me. Like I don't know what MBTI type is. I'm in the dark on that. Um, I'm not sure my feelings on affection and compassion. How we talk about feelings? I don't like feelings. I'm just kidding. Compassion, I don't have a ton of compassion. I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with empathy. Affection, if someone's giving me affection, I'm getting supply of that. That's cool. Oh, Myers-Briggs. Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of it's called like 16 personalities now. Oh gosh, I don't remember what I am. I'm a INTJ or something like that. Um, or an ENT. I'd have to look it back up. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've done the Myers-Briggs 16 personalities. This personality, I'm high D, high D, um, very high. So like when I first took the DIS personality test, like literally I was like 100% D, and then like a little bit of I, no S, literally no S at all, and then like a little bit of C, but extremely high D on the DISC personality scale. If you know anything about yeah, INTJ, I think. I have to look it up. I normally look it up to see who has it, who's the same, and then I normally remember from there. If you know anything about Enneagram, Enneagram is super awesome. Um, but Enneagram, I'm a type 8 Enneagram. Enneagram with let's say a wing 7, but sometimes it feels like a wing 9. Interesting. So the lives on Instagram, I guess, only go an hour and then they shut off automatically. Fascinating. Well, I'm gonna be getting off here in a few anyways, so when it shuts off, sorry. Follow me on YouTube and TikTok as well, or Facebook. Check out my YouTube channel for longer videos on there. Do darks return after divorce too with criminal cases? He hasn't hoovered at all. They don't always. I mean, if he hasn't hoovered at all, like great, like block and make sure that he doesn't come back. Enneagram's awesome. Enneagram is so cool because it takes it to such a deeper level than just Myers-Briggs or dispersonality. Like Enneagram is literally the bomb when it comes to personality tests because it not only tells you who you are, it also shows you how you've been shaped that way. It also goes a lot deeper than that. I'm not an Enneagram expert. I literally have an Enneagram textbook though that's like this thick. It's like super intense. Um, I think it'd be cool to come on and do like do one live night that's about Enneagram, but I know we get distracted with a lot of narcissist stuff. Um, if you're on Instagram, thanks for tuning in. It's got like 30 seconds and it's just going to cut out, and I'm not going to restart it because I'm going to be ending here soon. YouTube, thank you guys for tuning in. We're finishing up some questions here on TikTok, and then we'll head it out. Yeah, a lot of times they hoover, and it's hard to be able to keep track of it. Why they start a smear campaign while still with you? If they can make you look bad, they can make themselves look better. 2 narcs in a row. How do you spot a narc when you're dating? There's lots of different tips. Like, gosh, off the top of my head, like tell them no. See how they react to boundaries. Planner friend, yes. Are there subtle differences with NPD and BPD? Yes, there are subtle differences. BPD, you have sometimes suicidal thoughts or actions. BPD has a little bit more emotions, etc. There's several. I'm like losing my train of thought to be able to pick all of them up. There is, what was it? He was telling me about the other day. Lee was telling me something the other day about there was someone he got out of a one-on-one and the narcissist proposed on I think the first date. Like literally, like they will go crazy. Like it's insane. But I want to say he said that they proposed on the first date. Like that's how fast it was. Future faking is real. They try to get with you and try to lock you in as quick as they can. But yeah. Yep. Future faking to lock you in. Narcissists still threaten to unalive themselves. How do you know the difference? We'd have to dive into it. We'd have to dive into the DSM-5 and kind of show you like what the difference is with it. So BPD, you've got a little bit more emotions. BPD is more common in women than it is men. Like it's literally more like 75% BPD is women, 75% narcissist is men, like that kind of thing. Um, then there's all different types of strains or types of narcissism, like the victim mentality, etc. Yeah, deactivating everything, social media to protect yourself. No, absolutely. Yeah, test empathy, set boundaries. Look on just Google me. Just Google Ben Taylor narcissist and it'll pop up with a couple articles and that I got featured in. And I know I put a couple things on there, but then if you go the if you Google me and you click on the Sun article, I know underneath that there is also some like red flag stuff from another girl. I don't have her book. It's someplace else. From another girl, Stina Sanders. I'm gonna botch her name. Yeah, no, that's right, Stina Sanders. But she did some stuff underneath mine that also had like more like red flags to watch out for of a narcissist and things like that. How to divorce a narcissist? Do the paperwork, make it happen. The hard thing is getting them to sign the paperwork or communicate with the attorney and all to make it happen. Sometimes it can be really messy, really difficult. Why do narcs stay quiet on social media? Where'd he go? And tell people he doesn't have one. A lot of times that's so they control and pick up people, but they don't want to post a lot of stuff on social media so they don't get caught with other people that they're with other people. My website, rawmotivations.com. Rawmotivations.com. You can schedule one-on-one there. You can jump in the event coming up December 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Trauma Bonds. Yeah. Having like a bunch of conversations here on TikTok. Been in therapy for a year, educated on healing journey, yes, which is awesome. So you can use it to their advantage, yeah. Um, what other question was on here? I thought I saw another one. If a narcissist cuddles, will you consider them lower on the spectrum? Let's go with yes to start off with, and then also if they cuddle, that might mean they're getting supply. Maybe their love language is touch for some reason, and they're getting supply from that. So I wouldn't necessarily say they're low on the spectrum. On the spectrum, they could be, but I don't think that's definite. Is it normal for a narc to leave all social media after marriage? Possibly, or they might just change accounts. There's nothing normal about what a narc does. My narc is in hiding since the divorce. Is that normal? Maybe they're licking their wounds. Maybe they're trying to redo their social media, who they are, so they can find someone else. Yeah, what do you mean friendships? Can you tell me a little bit more? Like the narcissist, like having friendships? Like what do you mean? All right. Any other last questions here? We're going to wrap up here in the next couple minutes. Thank you so much. So I'm going to try to save it. I'm going to try to save it off of TikTok, but we will see because the last couple times when I've tried to save the live off of TikTok, it hasn't worked. I have another device here that I have been screen recording, and hopefully that works. Watch it screen record, not recording the sound. I don't know. So we'll try. I do. Oh, well, yeah. I do have this on Instagram as well. So, and I think it posted. Trying to do that as well. And I do have it on YouTube. So YouTube, it's a little bit different because I'm like looking back and forth and everything. But this is also going up on YouTube because I'm actually streaming it on YouTube at the same time too. That's why I've been more disengaged, kind of looking three directions. So you should be able to see this on YouTube as well. If it works on here, I'll get it downloaded, put this on YouTube as well. Next live is next week, next Thursday. Tune in next Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time because my wife is going to be on as well. Everybody's been asking about that. Oh, do they value friendships? They value what they get out of friendships. So if I have a friendship that I'm getting something out of, that I'm getting supply, then yeah, that has value for me. So I'll value that. Yeah. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. No, I'm not in North Carolina. I was passing through the other day. That's why I saw Lee. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna try to record. We're gonna have like a couple laptops up and try to be recording stuff because I know a lot of people want to see the interactions with me and my wife and all that fun stuff. Doesn't mind diagnosis, just what they do and how you feel. I don't know what you mean. But yeah. All right, wrapping up. Anything else that anybody wants to ask or say? Gonna wrap it up here. Um, But yeah, follow me on different social media. Help me out on YouTube. If you guys don't follow me on YouTube, I am working on putting longer videos up there, just talking about narcissism. So what I did this past week is I would record a TikTok and then I'd switch straight over and record a YouTube about the TikTok that would be like, you know, 6 to 8 minutes long instead of like 1 minute. Now, meeting with Lee was awesome. Like we had a ton of fun. We met. We couldn't find a good place to meet, so we met at Chick-fil-A as we were driving back. We had a good talk. Everybody was like, "Oh, I wish I could have been there." Like, I mean, we just talked. It wasn't anything like crazy. Um, yeah, it was just, I think the funniest thing, I wish I would have recorded it, but I think the funniest thing is we walked out of Chick-fil-A, like we're getting ready to say bye, and then we're like, we got to do a video, we got to do something. And we're both like standing there with our phones, and we're kind of like, what do we say? Like, we don't even know what to talk about. I wish I would have had a video of us like standing there doing that because it was just a funny moment. Of like we both kind of like blanked of like we're both standing there and we don't know what to say or talk about. I thought that was funny and I thought that was kind of cool. Um, but yeah, no, we had a good time. We had a good time. It was fun. Yeah, most narcs won't talk about narcissism because they don't want to admit it. A little bit at home. I'm glad I'm out of that environment. got him out of that area. So Chick-fil-A was great for a period of time, but it fed me with narcissism, and there's a lot of fake people in Chick-fil-A. A lot of fake people. A lot of narcissists in Chick-fil-A. Psychopath Free. I haven't read it, but I know it got recommended to me the other day. What I need help is I need help with people putting together two things: a list of books that helps either people in narcissism or narcissistic abuse, and a list of groups. I still work some Sundays. At Chick-fil-A, I work 6 days a week on average for a year straight, 2 years straight. I mean, I worked with the company for 10 years. I averaged the last year I was with them, I averaged 60 hours for a year. Like that was my average. So some weeks it was like 70 hours. No, like it was not a good spot. I forgot what I was saying. Someone else. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody's in here from the Chick-fil-A, but like the Chick-fil-A I was at, there's a lot of hoes. So there's some crazy stuff going on in there. It wasn't very good. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's a nice like Christian place." Like, no, like there's like someone there was like a porn star. Like they had their never mind, I'm just gonna digress. We're not going down that. But yeah. Anyways. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thank you for all the support and everything. Once again, if you don't follow me on YouTube, please go on there. Follow me on YouTube. No, you haven't seen me event yet. Um, Follow me on YouTube. If you want to talk more like one-on-one, share your story, work through different things, then go on to my site, rawmotivations.com, schedule a one-on-one with me. Love to be able to talk to you guys further, however I can. Coming up on the 18th. Thank you, appreciate it. On the 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be doing a trauma bond workshop. It is something you have to sign up, so you can do that through the website, Raw Motivations, rawmotivations.com. And then also, once again, next week, December 9th at 8:30 p.m., going to be on here with my wife. I'm going to be trying to stream it on all 3 platforms so a lot of people are going to ask questions and stuff. But, yep. All right. We're wrapping up. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. If y'all need anything, let me know. If y'all ever have a question or want to have something discussed on one of these, like ahead of time, like feel free to email me too. Message me or email me, but you can email me at rawmotivations@gmail.com. The only exception is it has 2 S's at the end. I couldn't get raw motivations, so it's raw motivations, 2 S's. rawmotivationss@gmail.com. Cool. All right. Thank y'all. I'm going to go ahead and jump off, get some of this posted to YouTube. Cool. Thank you guys. Pop this up here. Good to see you guys. Hey, thanks for all the moderators. I know some of you all still in here, some of you guys aren't, but I tried to go through and like make some people moderators. If you're still in here and you're a moderator and I haven't talked to you, I've only talked to like 2 or 3 or whatever. But if you can try to tune in next week whenever we go live when my wife goes live with us, I've already spoken to a couple moderators, just giving them a heads up. There's some people out here. Not as much on TikTok. There's definitely on YouTube and stuff, but there's some people out here that are not the nicest when it comes to my wife still being with me. So, gonna need some help from moderators. Just watching. I guess the best way to put it is just help protect her from the trolls and the people that are gonna attack her for still being with me. If I wasn't changing, growing, or in therapy, or working on myself, or making sure I don't cheat, then she wouldn't be here. So, but yeah, thank y'all. I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all support. All right, I'm gonna jump off. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a good evening. And we will see you guys next week, if not sooner, but probably won't jump on unless I have time. Work's kind of crazy with it being peak season. All right. Anyways, y'all have a good one. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.